Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. You will be learning the best method to graph and you will be able to do page 12. Today students will be able to choose the best method to graph by looking at the structure of the equation. Okay, and so we've been learning 3 different ways already to graph. And I'm going to show you right here. The 3 ways is first we learned by plotting points. And basically that's when we did either three points or the table. Okay, again, if you don't remember, you can go back to the previous lessons and you can check it out. So you gave the value for X and Y. Okay, that's one of the methods. And this method can be done with any equation. Next, we learn the X and Y intercepts. And ideally, it's when the equation is in standard form. Okay, basically that's when we do, if you recall, the viscous. Again, we can use it with any of the equations, but it's better when it's in standard form, when X and Y are on the left of the equal sign. So for example, the standard form, I'm going to write it here, like 2x plus 3y equals 12. Okay, your X and your Y are before the equal sign. But it doesn't only work for that one, but it's the best form to do it when the equation is in standard form. And finally, we learn the slope-intercept form. And for this one, you don't do any algebraic equations unless if it's in standard form, you can make it so that it's in slope-intercept and graph it. So this is the y equals mx plus b. This is your first point, and then this is the rise and run. Again, these are the 3 different methods. Practically any equation can be formatted so that you can use any of the 3 methods with the one form, any one equation. Maybe I'll give you the first one that I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do all of them. Let me see. Although it's gonna be kind of tricky. So this one is the first equation, and you can see that it's kind of like what's going on in here. You have X in here, Y is on here. So the best method for this one, you don't have X and Y on this side. It's not in standard form, so you don't use the X and Y intercepts. Y is not by itself on the left and X over here, so you cannot do the slope intercept the way it is right now. So what we're gonna do instead is the plotting points, meaning that you're gonna find 3 points or 4. Let's do 3 points. We're gonna give value to X so that we can figure out what the value of Y is. Another trick that I want to show you, when Y doesn't have a fraction, but X, the coefficient of X has a fraction, what I want you to do is look at the denominator. That denominator can give me a hint of what would be better so that I can choose for the value of X, because I can get rid of that fraction by choosing values for X that are multiples of 3, meaning 3, 6, 9, 12, although these are too big, I would say. Maybe either use 3 or 6, okay, so that way you can get rid of the fraction. It always happens when you choose the multiples of the denominator, you're gonna get rid of the fraction. Okay, let me see. Maybe I'll just use the smaller one, which is 3. So for x, we'll choose 3, we'll choose 0, and negative 3. Okay, the denominator. If there is no denominator, then you can use other numbers like 2, 1. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now that we have the values for x, let's start working on this. So I'm going to bring down everything except the x. It's 3 now. It's going to be negative 2/3 times x, but the value of x is 3, equals, notice how I don't have the x anymore. I put the 3 in its place. Y plus 3. I put this whole number over 1, because remember that when we multiply fractions, it's fraction multiplied by a fraction. So put it over 1, and we get this negative, give it only to one of them. So it's going to be negative 2 times 3, negative 6. 3 times 1, that's equals to 3, equals, we just bring this down. Then negative 6 divided by 3 becomes negative 2. I want to leave y by itself, right? This is going to stay by itself. So I want to get rid of the 3. So if I'm adding 3, the opposite is to subtract 3. And so now y is equals to, it doesn't matter if you get the value on this side, it's okay. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is equals to negative 5. Remember that in addition and subtraction, same signs, we add. Since they both are negative, we add them and keep the sign of the bigger one. So my value for y is negative 5. Now let's do the one for the second. For the second value of x, x is 0. So negative 2/3 times 0 equals y plus 3. Anything, even if it's a fraction, multiplied by 0 will always be 0. Equals y plus 3. If, again, we want to leave y by itself, right? We're isolating the y. So the opposite of adding is subtracting 3. And so the value of y is equals to 0 plus negative 3, negative 3. So now I have my second point, 0, negative 3. Finally, the third one, where value of x is negative 3. Remember, I chose the denominator. One's positive, one's negative. Now I have negative 2 over 3 times negative 3 equals y plus 3. We put it over 1 so that we can multiply straight. Negative times negative, positive. 2 times 3, 6. 3 times 1, 3. Equals y plus 3. Notice how beautifully this divides. 6 divided by 3, 2. That's where you get rid of the fraction. That's why we're choosing multiples of 3 so that we can get rid of that fraction. Again, if we're adding 3, the opposite is to subtract 3, right? Because we want to leave y by itself. And so this cancels. And so you get y equals, when you have different signs, subtract and leave the sign of the bigger one. So 3 minus 2, 1. But the bigger sign is negative, so negative 1. We have our third point, and they should align. So let's start graphing those points. 3, negative 5. So remember that the first one is on x. So 3, 1, 2, 3. And then negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since it's negative for the y, you go down. Okay, that's our first point. The second point is 0, negative 3. So 0, we don't move. And then negative 3, 1, 2, 3, right there. And finally, we have negative 3 on x, negative 1 on y. So negative 3, 1, 2, 3, negative 1. Remember that it's always on x first, and then finally y. we're ready to graph, and look how they align. So that means that our answers are correct. Points always need to be aligned. So when do we choose plotting points? When we do not have either y alone in here or both x and y to the left of the equal sign. Okay, that's when we choose plotting points. Remember that you can even choose this one and move it around, manipulate the equation. If you want to do it in standard form, you can just subtract y, multiply by 3 so that you can make it in standard to be able to use it. I think I'm going to focus just on choosing the best method. For this one, we'll be plotting points. Now let's look at the other one and see how is that different. Okay, so notice how your x and your y are on the left of the equal sign. Okay, in here it was only x. In here, x and y on the left. So the best method in here could be with the x and y intercept. When you're looking for the x-intercept, y equals 0. When you're looking for the y-intercept, x equals 0. The opposite is equals to 0. Okay, I call it viscous because it's like eye crossed. Your pupils go to the middle, looking at the nose. Okay, so for the x-intercept, I'm going to replace y with 0. So 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. Okay, everything is the same except you put the 0 in there. 3x, 2 times 0 is 0, equals 6. 3x plus 0 is 3x, equals 6. And if you're multiplying, the opposite is dividing. So x equals 2. Okay, so now I have the first point, which is my x-intercept. Oops, why did I put 0? Sorry about that. This should be 2. Oh, that doesn't look nice, and my whiteout is lost. Okay, this is 2, 2, 0. Okay, now I'm gonna do the other one. So 2. So now for the y-intercept, x equals 0. So this becomes 0. Basically, you just do that and divide. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. Look how fast that is. But let's show the work. 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 6. 3 times 0 is 0 plus 2y equals 6. 0 plus 2y equals 6. And if we're multiplying, the opposite is to divide. So y equals to 3. Okay, so the value of 3, notice how I'm going to put 0 again. Okay, y is going to be 3. And those are my intercepts. Why did I cover? When y is 0, you can basically, and it's in standard form, you can basically just cover that because eventually this 2 times 0 is going to be 0, and plus 3x, it just becomes 3x. So you can do just divide 6 by 3 equals 2. And then for the y-intercept, x equals 0. So you divide 6 divided by 2 is equals to 3. Okay, that's another shortcut that you can take. When can you do the x-intercept and the y-intercept? You can actually do it with anyone just by replacing 0 and start solving, like finding points. But it's ideal when you have 3x plus 2y or 5x plus 10y, or anytime you have the x and the y before the equal sign. Okay, so 2, 0. 2, always x first. And then 0, you don't go up or down. That's right there. 0, 3, you don't go anywhere to the left or to the right. Oops. You don't go to the left or to the right, but you go on Y, up or down. In this case, it's up because it's positive. So this is your line. And for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, all you're finding is those where the line crosses the axis, okay? Again, if you need to do more review of this, previous lessons will help. The 2 previous lessons are on different methods of graphing, but today we're just choosing the best one for each independent depending on the structure. So look at the structure of this one. This is y equals mx plus b, where you have to the left of the equal sign is y alone. Okay, so in this format, you don't do any math at all. You just identify that this is b, meaning the y-intercept, and this is the slope. And the slope needs to be in fraction form, and if it's not, then you need to put it over 1. So anytime y is by itself, you have the y-intercept and the slope. And this is your rise, this is your run. From previous lesson, you might recall that I put the rise as the sun because sun rises, and the run has somebody who's running. Since it's positive, I'm just going to put it to the right. And so I'm going to start graphing. I start with the y-intercept, which is the first point, and so it's going to be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. That's my first point. From that point, very important, it's from that point, not from the origin, but from that point, I'm going to rise 2, so meaning I'm going to go up 1, 2, and then 1 to the right, and that's where I place my point. Notice how I don't put a point for the 2, I put the point after the 1. So 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. And you can do as many as you want. I would recommend at least 3 points to make it easier for you to align where the line is gonna go. And so that's it. That's how you graph. Again, I'm gonna bring it. Look at the structure of the different ones. I'm just going to show you the 3 different ones. This x is on this side and it has a fraction, and so you kind of want to do the easiest ones for this one will be to find different points, plotting points. Then you have where x and y are on the left. And so I chose, it's in standard form. It's in standard form. And so I chose the x and y intercept. And finally, when y is alone, cuando la y está solita, you use the slope-intercept form, where you have the first point and then rise, run to get to the second point and repeat it. Okay, so I hope this helps to be able to choose the best method, and now you can work on page 12 and have fun.